At this point, I recognize Director Shiu for her testimony. Thank you. Microphone, please. Hit the microphone.
There we go.
Great.
Oh, okay. Good morning, Chairman Walberg, Ranking Member Courtney, and distinguished members of the subcommittee. Thank you for inviting me to discuss the critical work of the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs, which I've been privileged to lead since 2009. It's an honor to testify before the elected representatives of the American people we both serve. With Mr. Fitzgerald, a veteran who now serves people with disabilities in New Jersey, and with my other colleagues on this panel. OFCCP enforces the civil rights of the nearly 1/4 of American workers who work for federal contractors and subcontractors. We enforce 3 long-standing laws that prohibit employment discrimination by contractors and require them to take affirmative action to advance employment opportunities for qualified women, minorities, veterans, and people with disabilities. Our jurisdiction covers almost 200,000 business establishments which receive $500 billion in federal contracts. When we find discrimination, we take action to correct it and provide relief to the affected workers. Over the past 5 years, we negotiated $57 million in back wages and interest and nearly 10,000 job offers on behalf of 90,000 workers affected by discrimination. Today, I'd like to focus on 2 of the laws we enforce, known as VEVRA and Section 503. These laws require equal employment opportunity and affirmative action for protected veterans and people with disabilities. The regulations under these 2 laws have not always worked to improve employment opportunity as Congress had intended. We are far from fulfilling what Vice President Biden called our sacred obligation to our returning veterans who have sacrificed so much and who deserve good jobs when they return home. Yet post-9/11 veterans are still more likely to be unemployed than non-veterans, and people with disabilities are still disproportionately found among the unemployed and those too discouraged to look for work. In September, OFCCP updated these rules to increase dramatically their effectiveness by clarifying expectations and facilitating compliance with the law. These rules provide, for the very first time ever, specific aspirational metrics for hiring qualified veterans and people with disabilities, metrics that are similar to those that have long been used to promote equal opportunities for women and minorities. I believe that what gets measured gets done, and metrics are essentially management tools that measure progress and inform decision-making. These new rules are a win-win. If contractors achieve the metrics, more than 200,000 veterans and almost 600,000 workers with disabilities could have new job opportunities in the first year alone. According to the Department of Defense, more than 1 million members of the armed services will be transitioning to civilian jobs over the next 5 years, roughly 200,000 per year. Our new rule could dramatically improve the employment prospects of many of those returning veterans each year. In addition, the new rules will benefit contractors by helping them successfully identify, hire, and retain well-qualified workers, as well as increasing their access to new markets. These outcomes benefit not only our workers and workplaces, but ultimately our communities and the national economy as well. The VEVRA rule requires contractors to use either a national hiring benchmark of 8% or an alternative benchmark that they select based on various factors. The Section 503 rule sets a national 7% goal for individuals with disabilities in every job category. Neither the benchmark nor the goal is a rigid or inflexible quota. Quotas are expressly forbidden. Instead, the metrics are used to measure the effectiveness of contractors' outreach and recruitment efforts. When we find companies that have not achieved these metrics, we work with them to review the critical steps that lead to the successful identification, hiring, and retention of qualified vets and people with disabilities. And I'm particularly proud of our rulemaking process. We conducted a 4-year-long open and transparent process that included town halls, an advance notice of proposed rulemaking, and two NPRMs, hundreds of comments, and countless meetings, and we engaged the full panoply of OFCCP stakeholders. And we listened. as evidenced by the many changes we made to the proposed rules in response to our stakeholders' concerns. I was pleased to see those efforts recognized by former Secretary of Homeland Security Tom Ridge in an op-ed that appeared in the Wall Street Journal 1 week after the rules were published. He commended OFCCP for following a model process to create a rule that has a real impact on improving employment while at the same time providing flexibility to companies and how best to achieve the new hiring standards. We know that workers are our nation's greatest resource, and the United States has among the most talented, innovative, and hardworking people in the world, and they are the engine of our economic recovery. That is why the Department of Labor and OFCCP are so fully committed to ensuring that American workers have the opportunities that will allow them and their employers to flourish. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my statement. Thank you very much again for the opportunity to testify. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you.